Hi everyone. So we're already at the end of our first week of this class. Welcome to those of you who are here. We're still having a little bit of ebb and flows to in terms of who's going to be in the class, but we've managed to have a bit of a discussion this week. So I'm going to make some comments about that. One thing I wanted to just encourage you to do, for those of you who haven't yet, make sure you go in and sign up for weekly discussion moderation. We've still got some gaps, and there's supposed to be sort of basically two per week. If in the case where we don't have enough people, um, I will co-moderate with the person, whoever's in there, and if nobody signs up, then I'll do that myself. But it's an important part of the course because it's a really good experience to just engage in that process, I think, and especially if you pick a week that either is something that's really new to you, so you learn it, or that's very much something of your interest, so that you can, maybe it's something you want to pursue for your final paper, for instance, and that gives you a little bit of a head start in thinking about some of those issues. Yes, I was going to say actually that it's never too soon to talk about a final paper. So, do start thinking about that. I have a final assignment posting area, but you're also welcome to post questions there about what you might do. You can also email me, send me a message in Pepper. I'm happy to start that discussion whenever you like. You don't have to do a collaborative paper, but you can. So, and I find that when people want to and they have a common interest, it really works nicely. And some of you may not want to do that, and that's okay. You can do one on your own. So, okay, so that was just a bit of a background. So this first week, I'm just going to go over some of the content ideas that came up. I also wanted to just show you, that you can view these the notes in these in Pepper in different ways. You can go by title or by split screen or by contents. And I'm going to just pick a shorter one just to show you. So, for instance, if you did it split screen, you can open this as you click down here. This one it opens up on the other side, but you can also always see its relationship in terms of the rest of the conversation, if you like, right? So it can be handy. And sometimes just at the end, you might have read through things, and you decide, you know what, I just want to whip through the contents here and see if I can remember, look at something. So then they all open underneath one another. So then you get a kind of temporal sort of opening of all those notes, and it lets you kind of zoom in on something or look at it in relation to something else. So these are just different ways that you can navigate. And sometimes you may just be in a hurry and you want to put more of your focus into one question, but you just want to get a sense of what's going on in the other one, and you can do that. So it gives you some flexibility in how you view the work. So yes, I'm just going to mention this again, the using content-based note titles. It may seem like a little thing, but all these little things in an online environment are very important. And when we use content-based note titles, as opposed to saying reply, because we know it's a reply because that's technically what it is. When you do reply as a note, it indents, and so we know it's a reply. But what we want to know is which part of that person's note are you responding to? Which idea have you been following up with? Because sometimes there can be several replies, and they might all be dealing with a different part of that original note. You see what I mean? So it's important to indicate that. And I also think that it has. I'm doing some research in this area at the moment, actually, with one of my students, doing a master's thesis about. Actually, this one is doing a doctoral thesis, but about the role of note titles. Is this a kind of literacy practice that we see online? Because it's a different kind of thing. You don't need to do that in other kinds of either written contexts or in speaking contexts. So it's kind of an interesting idea. But so think about that as you try to come up with a title that's sort of catchy and means something. So you do it at the end of your when you've written your reply, your entry, and take the sort of what you think the main idea is and try and put that into a into a title. And it's I think it's a good, it's also a good kind of mental exercise because it lets you kind of hone in on the main point of your comment. So that's just so that's like a convention, I think, for us to use. I should actually put it in the description I have of all of the different things that you can do, the ways that you should. Here I have this, suggestions for online contributions, the guidelines here. I haven't got that in there actually, so I think I might go back and put it in because, it isn't always an issue, but it was this year, so I wanted to mention it for this course. All right, where are we? Oh yeah, so we talked a bit about the challenges of collaborative learning and about the nature of wikis and what's going on in there. And I think people generally felt that there was value to wikis, but of course this idea that you can edit other people's work is a very challenging one. And I know that where did I put those? Here we are. That was another one. I'd put in some references here, and I think I put it in here, did I not? No, maybe it's in another one of these, but this is the trouble when it's my own. Here we are. I knew I did this. Okay, so I added a couple of references here, and I've put them into that main view where we can all add references, right, if we find interesting things to add to that, because I think this is very helpful to use these kinds of extra resources. They'll be helpful for final papers. But it's this idea of all technologies sort of if their use evolves through social practices. There's a technology, and a technology does certain things and doesn't do other things. But how we use it is a function of our culture, the particular culture in which it's used. So, I mean, I suspect that blogging would look very different in different parts of the world, for instance. And it evolves with time. It takes a long time for us to develop good practices with technology. And this, of course, is the situation we're in with education. We'll see with the call literature that actually there's been a long time that, that educational technology has been used with language learning in all sorts of different ways. But it too changes with the kind of how we understand communication versus as our strategies for teaching change, our theories of what good education looks like change, so does what we do with technology change. And I think we hold it in educational uses of technology. We hold to a higher standard because we need some research evidence about their value compared to social technologies in the broader culture, which are evaluated more in their terms of their popularity. I mean, there are some overlaps. For instance, usability is an important one. Educational technologies and social technologies like Twitter and YouTube and so forth need to be easy to use because otherwise it puts people off. It has a motivational consequence. And I think for teachers too, I mean, teachers may get, there's only so many technical challenges people can cope with, and you need those kinds of things can really stand in the way of people integrating technology meaningfully. I hear the same kind of slight anxiety around collaboration that I always hear when I talk about it, because the actual experiences of collaborative learning can pose challenges. I do actually think that we need to spend more time as teachers teaching people how to collaborate. I think, and a really nice example of where they do that is in knowledge building, actually, which came up in one of the discussions, in one of the other questions this week. Where teachers spend an enormous amount of time in class, no, not online, but actually, talking about creating a set of social practices around how do you talk about somebody else's work? What's appropriate language to use around that when you're critiquing something? Because you want to be able to critique, but you want to do it in such a way that it's constructive. So constructive criticism, constructive collaboration are really and so that's socially sensitive is quite an art, and something that people need to learn, and they need to be, I think, helped with. But I think you can certainly do that, and I've seen it work very well from kids in grade one up until um, any age really. But I think it may need to be more explicit. So sorry, I'm just sitting here on this note. I'll go back to the main one. So I think that we can address some of the problems and challenges of collaboration. Can be dealt with by how instructors, for instance, set up the marking and responsibility for collaborative processes, and by helping people learn how to do this well. In this class, you can choose whether you want to collaborate in the final project. And unlike my 1609 class, I'm not doing a case study in this one, which was a group kind of activity for that other course. But I thought for this first year, because this is the first time I'm offering this, I wanted to have it fairly straightforward so that I can figure out what things work here and what things we might need to add later. So what else was there? Oh, yes. Selwyn, his sort of cautions over, claiming the value of too much value for technology. I mean, he's a sociologist, and he's saying we need to really look and describe what people are doing, because it's only out of really deeply understanding how it's used that we can start to see what the real value and what the problems might be. I think there were some interesting challenges to his cautions that were raised in that session over, because enthusiasts, people who are very enthusiastic about these kinds of tools, can encourage other people who are maybe hanging back and are a little anxious. So there is absolutely a place for enthusiasm and for support, and indeed that can help. But we also, I think it's just a balance really, not going too far in one direction. In terms of COPs and education and COP generally, people generally saw it as a useful tool for teachers, and I'm going to be interested in seeing the different COPs that you folks choose to talk about in this course, the ones that you may be part of professionally, and how that kind of works for you. And there was a discussion in this question about different kinds of communities, and in fact, that's where the knowledge building thing that I mentioned before and Scott Amelia's work came up. And there was a discussion about whether video conferencing was really practice in Wenger's sense. And I think, which is the 3 criteria for a COP: domain, community, and practice. And I think that's a very good concern. And in fact, other authors, Sasha Barab and Duffy, have talked about this. And they have a nice article called Practice Fields. And they say that education schools are best understood not as full-blown communities of practice from the student point of view, but rather, but certainly for teachers, they definitely are. Educational settings like schools are, and some of the examples you talked about, like staff rooms and groups within the school, are certainly part of a teacher community practice. But their idea of practice fields, because it's not really for students, is quite a nice way to think about that. And I will add that article to the list of other readings, just so you have that in case people are interested in that issue later. So we're going to, I think that's all I really wanted to say. This was a good start. We're all kind of on the same, in the same plane here. I'm just going to look a little bit at the second week that we're going into now, and looking at the call literature and the overview there. And there's a couple of things. One, Henriette is going to lead the discussion. Brave woman for putting her name down for the first one, and I'm going to support her with that. And I've also put in, so the questions are here, and you're in groups, and I put you in groups, which I usually do in this class. I wasn't sure how many people were going to be in it this time, so I didn't talk about the groups until I was sure we had enough. But I think we do. We've got 2 groups here. And I usually change the group members around every couple of weeks so that you gradually get to spend a bit more time with everyone in the class, which I find also, in fact, helps a sense of community. And as for a kind of a way to bring us all back together as a full class, I have this class editable note here about summaries of reactions to working in smaller groups, because I want to know if you like that. This week, even though it was the first week, so it's a little hard to tell, we worked in one big group. Do you like being in 2 smaller groups? How does that work for you? What do you think about that? Is it helpful for those of you who are second language learners? Is that a useful? Is it easier in a smaller group, or is it easier in a bigger group? And think about, how does it affect not only your experience but what you learn? Is it more helpful? Anyway, so I think so. I'd really like for you to, after working through a little bit this week in your smaller two groups, to put some of your thoughts in that note about your experience, and then we can kind of compare that and look at that. So I'm going to try and do that during the week, each week, to bring back, so we have a little bit of shared experience from the both groups. But because they're going to rotate in terms of people within the groups, hopefully you'll still get to meet and know everybody in the various groups as we go. I mean, in the whole class, excuse me, as we go. All right, so I think that's enough for now. I don't want to overdo this. I try to keep these short, but sometimes I get carried away and chatty. But not now. I'm going to stop, and I look forward to talking to you more online this week. And let me know if you have any questions or concerns as we proceed. You can send me a message or an email. I'm happy to hear from you. Okay, I hope all is well. Enjoy the week. Bye bye.